Now, because of years later, a different concerned insider, Edward Snowden, we now know a lot more about what the government has been doing. Given that you know a lot more about what the government's been doing in this space, does that give you some perspective on what you think this Quantico circuit was?
It does. I could only come to the same conclusions as everybody else. Ultimately, my focus was to report the facts as I knew them and understood them. And you know, it's up to, I guess, folks smarter than I am and with greater level of access than I to determine what the conclusions were. But Edward Snowden seemed to really validate a lot of the concerns that a lot of citizens had, especially with regard to this Quantico circuit issue and other programs.
And of course, a lot of people have criticized Snowden for coming public with this, but based on your experience, is there a way to work inside to get these issues resolved, or does it need that kind of public disclosure?
So I can't speak from personal experience, but I can speak from the perspective of having listened to a lot of other folks who try to work within the system. The system does not seem to be very interested in getting feedback and getting criticism, and seems to be overt about its desire to punish people who just don't toe the line, regardless of if it was right or wrong. So from that perspective, I would say that Ed Snowden had to take some extreme measures, because other folks who had tried to operate within the system got quite a shellacking, both professionally and in terms of their personal lives. And certainly Ed Snowden didn't fall far from that tree. You know, he certainly is the subject of lots of shellacking. But the one thing I can speak from personal experience with is that, you know, it's so easy for somebody that is not gone through this exercise to say, well, they should have done this or they should have done that. But once you make a disclosure, what happens to that data, what happens to the machinery that's set in motion is completely outside of somebody's control. I know it was for me. I made a disclosure to folks that represented themselves to be my attorneys prior to finding the Government Accountability Project. And the very next day, they took my information and filed a $233 billion lawsuit with my disclosure as a John Doe anonymous disclosure. So, you know, I'm not sure if Ed Snowden really had the means to control what happens to the information once he disclosed it, but I'm sure he felt that he was compelled to disclose it. And I can opine that it's a lot easier for the NSA and the government agencies to create new systems than it is for us to go back and try to undo the precedents that was set from a constitutional perspective. So as it relates to that, I have to support him, and I think the guy was incredibly brave to do what he did. Right or wrong, it took a lot of guts to do what he did.
And in your own experience, I mean, you felt it was necessary for the public to know about what you knew.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And because that's, why did you think it was so important for the public to know?
For some of the very same reasons I just said. It's a lot easier for the government to create new systems than it is for us to go back and try to take back constitutional powers. You know, part of the challenge is that we're in a very unique time in the country's life in that previously technology could not do what it did. We did not have the technological resources to operate in this fashion. And that was a little bit of a safety mechanism for the Constitution. But you know, now that we have these technological capabilities, we have to make sure that we enforce what is constitutionally appropriate and not let technology get ahead of the Constitution. And that's one of the main reasons I did this, because previously we had the concept from a technology perspective, we call it biological overload, right? People could not absorb enough information in order to effectuate such a broad and sweeping level of access that the NSA and some of these government agencies have over citizens. But now they do. And it's really, really important that they learn how to operate within the boundaries of the Constitution.